Thank you for your time, given, respectable to educators and friends that abroad. First, I would like to give you our team split, and Anastasia is the first speaker. Will give you the definition point, and I will explain why emotion is appear. Najwa as the second speaker will give you further impact, and Jati as the third speaker will give you full of details. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in this debate we are talking about an extraordinary motion. Namely, this house believes that studying grammar is more important than practicing conversation skills. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the background of this motion is many people good in their conversation skills, but their grammar is basic. Their public speaking is fluent, but when we ask about the grammar, about the regulation of language, they are confused. And ladies and gentlemen, the definition of this motion is, there are three main definitions of this motion. The first is this house, the second is grammar, and the third is conversation skills. The first is this house. This house of this motion is foreign language. It means that the language of this motion is English language, because the English language is international language. And ladies and gentlemen, the second is grammar. Grammar is the regular to base obvious word and sentence, like simple past tense, simple present tense, and others. And ladies and gentlemen, the third is conversation skills. It's one ability to communicate to organization or individual, like speech, lecture, presentation, and others. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the goals of this motion is to know how effective studying grammar to help us, to help our conversation skills, and to explain benefit and function of grammar. And ladies and gentlemen, the mechanism of this motion is education about what the meaning of grammar, about what the function of grammar, and what the benefit of the grammar. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my justification point. There are three main justification points of this motion. The first main justification point is studying grammar is make us understand more about the rules of correct English language. When we learn grammar like simple past tense, simple present tense, it will help us to know what the correct English language and to correct English grammar is like. If we don't know the rules of the grammar at all, we'll never be able to speak English well. And ladies and gentlemen, the second main justification point is no difficulty in formal needs. In any situation, we must deal about with formal needs like school, work, and the others. In formal context, few grammatical errors are still acceptable, but in formal situation, formal language is something that is not negotiable. Like it or not, we must deal with that. And the third main justification point is when we learn in other countries like England, American, for student exchange, we must have a good grammar to speak English with local people. It's because when we have the conversation skill is good, but our grammar is messy, we will be ashamed to local people in there. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you about the background of this motion. The background of this motion is many people good in conversation skills, but their grammar is messy. Their public speaking is good, but when we ask about the grammar, they are confused. And ladies and gentlemen, the goal of this motion is to know how effective studying grammar to help our conversation skill and to explain benefit and function of grammar. And ladies and gentlemen, the mechanism of this motion is education about what the mean, about what the function, about the what benefit of grammar. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay. Before we start our discussion today, we would like to define the motions first and give us some team split and give another justification and reasons. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the honorable discussions here at UIN, and also there are comments and other comments. That this house believe that studying grammar is more important than practicing professional skills. Well, we would like to give some rebuttals. First, from the first speaker of the Prime Minister, or we can say Prime Ministers. The Prime Minister said that it is not new that if we could talk, but grammatically not correct. Yes? Thank you. Then for the status quo that happened actually, it is about the fluency of speaking, the fluency of English mastery. It is not about the grammar. And the second one, we would like to divide our definitions, that we agree that this house is about the foreign learners, and the second one is about grammar, is a sentence structures as simple as we could see. And the second one and the third one is conversational skills. The prime ministers are telling that conversational skills is about speech and presentations. But we here would like to against the definition about the conversational skills. It's about pronunciations, fluency, and accuracy. So that's it. So before we would like to jump to our explication, we would like to understand how the language are learned. Because we are talking about grammar, we are also talking about language. Then we would like to compare what is the better one. The first is when we are learning, we could imagine that we are kids. We are learning by what? Listening. We are talking to our baby, then he call daddy, call mommy, listening. And then the second one, we are imitating, which is it is practicing, speaking. It is not like the kid give us understanding that kid, dear boy, that you have to know that if you say this, you need a subject, like an object. Well, it is not that important if we are looking to the status quo that we have divided. And the second one, we would like to give an urgency. Well, the Prime Minister have said that the house is about the foreigners, which is if the foreigner as this house, it is not urgent that we all have known the best or the best grammar. We only need to know the practicing skills. We don't need a specific grammar, like for the first time. And we would like to also give some subject to understand it. That we come back that this possibility that studying grammar more important than practicing conversation skills, which is we would like to disagree with because in our definitions, the subject, predicate, and object, it is just a structural phrase. If we would like to practice, we would like to practice precisely with the letter, with constant practice. If we have the constant practice, the grammar is no longer as a word. We all know as grammar. We could use words at the same time, at the right time. We could use word at the right time. We could use every grammar at the specific time and context if we are a lot of practice. And also, we are talking about practice. Practice is not always like you speak randomly. No. If you practice as you are a kid, your mother also said, no, it says you would like to take a bottle, not you take a bottle would like. That is one simple philosophical definition. Also, practicing is also stimulating thinking, stimulating reading, speaking, and understanding context. But it is good if we know the grammar, but it is not necessary if we didn't know the context of the something that we speak, something that we talking about. So we would like to define and re-justify our discussion today is that we have to disagree that studying grammar are more important than practicing conversations, because talking about the urgency that we talk, the status quo, and the house of these discussions, and also the conversation skills that we would like to against the definition from the government's point of view. So that's all for ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
The leader of competition spent 5 minutes and 6 seconds.
Thank you for the first speaker of negative, and then we will moving on to the second speaker of the government team. The time for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, me as the second speaker from the government side of the host would like to talk to you about the first background why the motion disappeared. So the background why this motion disappeared is because there are many people who can speak conversation skills, but what they say may not be understood by other people they are talking to. And as we know everyone, when we speak or when we talk about something, we expect that the message are accepted by the people we are talking to. gentlemen, I would like to give you two problems of this motion. So the first problem of this motion is there are many people who have conversation skills, but the language that they use is wrong. So the second problem is the message from the speaker are not acceptable by the people they are talking to. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the goal of this motion. So the goal of this motion is make people to care about studying grammar than practicing conversation skills. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give you rebuttals for the first speaker of the opposition side of us. That he gave definition about this motion. As we know, ladies and gentlemen, the definition or give definition is not his job because the definition is the job of the first speaker of the government side of the house. Ladies and gentlemen, and he repeat it at 4 times, about 4 times. Like it just not make sense, ladies and gentlemen, because he talked about what it is not his job and he repeat it like 4 times, about 4 times. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the justifications. So I have a justification point. So the first justification point is grammar is at the center of both our spoken and written communication and allow us to be clearly understood by others. And the second my justification point is grammar is help us for communication and use some words or formal jobs. For example, it helps us make text easier, clearer, and more enjoyable to read. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the mechanism. So I have 2 mechanisms of this motion. So the first mechanism is we need to improve our education quality in grammar since the lowest level in education. For example, elementary school. Since elementary school, so that when they finish from the elementary school, they already have more ability and quality since we knew that the other you get more important grammar is whether that is on school or it is on a job world. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my second mechanism. So the second mechanism is we need to increase the standard of job applicator, where where the highest standard is the job applicator must have grammar skill because the grammar skill can help them to writing like journal, works data, and data report in a correctly way. And they do not have to repeat and remake their job because their job is already right, ladies and gentlemen, and have the standard of the right language. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you about my rebuttals for the first speaker of the opposition team. So my rebuttal is he gave definition about this motion. As we know, ladies and gentlemen, it is not his job to tell us about the definition about this motion because the definition about this motion is the job of the first speaker of the government side of the house. And he repeated like he really believed it for about 4 times. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you about the background why this motion is fair. So the background why this motion is fair is because there are many people who can speak conversation skills, but what they say may not be understood by the other people they are talking to. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you about the problems. So the first problem is there are many people who have conversation skills, but the language that they use is wrong. And the second one is the message from the speaker are not acceptable by the speaker, by the listener you are talking to. Thank you.
The delivery has spent 4 minutes and 18 seconds.
Okay, thank you for the second speaker of government team that has delivered their opinion, and then we will going on to the second speaker of negative team. The time is for you.
I thank in advance for the time given to me. Before I give my statement, let me ask about what second speaker said about people master conversation skills. What is the proof? If they don't do more practice, they study more. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm standing here to give my opinion and empower my first speaker statement. Why practicing conversation is more important than studying grammar? I have 2 points that will I say. The first, all things are completed by practicing, not only learning theory. So in studying language, we need to practice more than only to show up our confidence to the public. And if we only study grammar without practicing, so when we have time to show up our confidence to the public, just think if you have solution and give me it. And second, when we see from the social side, we hear and see people are talking with the words they think immediately. They don't think firstly about the structure of the word that must be used or any grammar that they use. But the most crucial purpose that people use when talking to others is giving understanding, not only structure. So giving understanding doesn't always need good grammar. An example for what I told is people in South Jakarta that are famous with their unique English. They may not use correct grammar, but what they talk to others can give understanding about what they will say. So in this case, I do disagree about the notion that studying grammar is more important than practicing skills, because we need more practice, not only learn the theory. Let me give you another example. When we meet tourists or foreigners in recreation area, when they ask us and use English, then we have no deep theory about grammar, so we just try to speak as can as we do. They will understand that we mean. Also, we don't use good grammar. Thank you.
The deputy leader of the opposition spends 2 minutes and 38 seconds.
Okay, thank you for the second speaker of negative team has been delivered their opinion, and then we will going on to the third speaker of the government team. And then the time is 5 minutes, time is 4 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the third speaker of the government side of the House. We'd like to give you some rebuttals for the first speaker and the second speaker of the opposition side of the House. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first it is from for the first speaker of the opposition side of the House. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing that I notice very much about is that he created his own definition and against the government definition. But in this case, the one that having this motion appear is because the government. Oh, how could he give some definition himself when the problems is concerned and come from the government? So it should be their job to create some definition. And here I strengthen the point from my second speaker. It's about that is why should you give some definition, but that is not your job exactly. And then, ladies and gentlemen, okay, our first government speaker gave clear definition. So opposition need to follow our definition and limitation, because government is the one open the motion. It is still about the same thing that the first speaker of the opposition side said, that he created new definition, but the problem is our first speaker already gave clear definition, clear enough definition, and clear enough limitation on how this motion is going on this debate. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the problem it is that if you do not prioritize grammar, there will be rude or slang language everywhere. Imagine if there is these kids or young folks talk with rude language on the street. That is why learning grammar is more important. You know which words that you can use and you shouldn't use in certain situation. And then, ladies and gentlemen, as you all, ladies and gentlemen, who live in Purwokerto knows, in some cases, kids using rude words. That is because they don't learn grammar enough. And imagine if they are learning grammar enough, there will be no children or no kids speaking rude words, ladies and gentlemen. And then, according to the Ministry of Education, learning grammar can increase our way of expression. We can be more clear with what our feeling, what our mind says about. If we know, learn, or we can learn grammar, we can be more clear about and specific about what we are thinking and what we may say is come after we learn grammar. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for the opposition team, they need to more focus on their structure because, yeah, for example, our first and second speaker is give clear enough structure, and that is why we are even more sure with our argument because we have clear structure. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Moving on to the second speaker, he said that spontan word from they thought from spontan word what we are thinking about without thinking grammar. And again, if spontaneously we say something that is on our mind without thinking about any grammar, the problem is good words can come because we don't think specifically on what our words shouldn't be and shouldn't be. That is the different things, ladies and gentlemen. And also, why should he give example, South Jakarta, when here Purwokerto could be an example? And then, yeah, practicing more than learning grammar? No, we don't think that is a good thing to do because ethics is more important than what you're acting. Okay, that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we as the government side couldn't agree with the opposition side, and we still stand with our motion that we are decided to believe that learning grammar is more important than practicing conversation skills. Thank you very much, and that is also why we deserve to be doing.
4 minutes and 2 seconds.
Okay, thank you for the third speaker of government team, and then we will continue to the third speaker of negative team. The time is 10. The time is over.
Thank you so much for the honorable judges, and thank you that allow me to deliver my speech. My name is Abdullah Fitrah, third speaker to rebut your thought and opinion. The first speaker, if we can know that the first speaker from the positive team told us if we actually the American country or another country, we should know grammar well, because if not, it will be a shame by them. But in fact, people in there always using slang to get conversation with people out there. Like for example, do you eat today? Do you have to eat today? But they just ask for peers or another people like, you eat today? Or have you eat today? Not add do in the conversation. Is it to ask to eat or not eat or no? And then the second speaker said and keep saying about the negative team about the first speaker from the negative team. It's totally wrong because it's not his job to tell the definition again. But it is totally his job because the definition of the positive team is not so exactly and not crystal clear and even accurate. So the negative team of first speaker should and compulsory to against the definition itself. And then the second speaker and also keeps saying that if the people don't know about the grammar, they cannot get work at the another country or etc. But you know, in fact, THBT in our country, it's easily to get there to get a work and in another country without grammar well. They just can't say about the conversation itself without grammar well. Because of what? Because the conversation is more important to get a negotiation between the owner and the worker at there. So we know that THBT and THI is not using grammar as well, but the important that the people from another country can know and understand what they're talking about. And then the third speaker and second speaker said that all job seekers pick up the people who job at the grammar. But in fact, it's not. In a research, there's a lot of in a journal of social and languages, there's a lot of people who gain the job by good at conversation than the grammar itself. Because this world is world of negotiation era, so conversation is more important than grammar. If we always focus on grammar, we cannot get a conversation as well, and we cannot get a negotiation and relation. We just only stick in here, always thinking about how we can put the word by the good structure. If we always like that, when we can connect with them with confidently. And also the third speaker said about the grammar is not polite, but the grammar is if we don't put the grammar well, it's not polite. You can know the grammar it's not polite, but the grammar is not behavior, but the grammar is a structure. So if you're using a wrong grammar, like mom, I can buy it today, it's wrong grammar. Or I buy it today can, it's a wrong grammar, but it's still polite because there's no root words in what they talking about. Words, root words, it's about vocabulary, not grammar. Grammar is structure. How you put the words in your conversation is grammar, but how you put the vocabulary, it's determined. The root words come from your mouth and the polite words come from your heart. It's a vocabulary, not grammar. Grammar is structure. And the third speaker also say and keep saying easier to come out what we are thinking when we use the grammar than we spontaneously to get a conversation in front of people without a grammar. But in fact, if we just spontaneously to get a conversation, we work easier to speak and with confidently, of course. So is it more easier with only spontaneously than to always thinking about grammar? Grammar, in fact, 2,000 people, in fact, in the journal. 2,000 million, in fact, in the journal, there's a lot of people who always abandon their skill of English because they always thinking about grammar, because they always afraid if we talking about everything in English, but we get it wrong in grammar. Grammar is not important at all, and I strongly disagree with this motion that this house believes studying grammar is more important than practicing conversation skills. Thank you so much.
6 minutes.
Okay, thank you for the third speaker of negativism, and also thank you to all speakers of this debating. And then we will continue to the next session is the reply speaker. For the first reply speaker is from the negative team. Which will the reply speaker? And then time is 3 minutes. Time is for you.
Good morning, everyone. This is very beautiful discussion to discuss. We would like to reply our debate discussion today. I would like to summarize our debate discussion today. As we know, ladies and gentlemen, the government side of the house are talking about we need to have the best grammar, to have the best language. We can assume that they are talking that if you get the best grammar, you have the best language. But they are neglecting the status quo that happened in Indonesia, or the status quo that happened with every foreign learners in this world. Because if we are talking more about grammar, we are talking about the theories, and we are not talking to practice. If you keep learning, not live in it, well, you know the grammar, but you didn't know the practice. You cannot do practice because what? Because you're afraid to speak. So that's why we do believe that this house believes that studying grammar is not as that important. The more important is practicing conversations. And the second one, I would like to summarize that the negative side of the house, we are talking in the right path because they are talking about philosophicals, and we are talking about the right definitions about speaking or conversational skills. It is about speech. Speech is a presentation skills, but speaking skills, it is about pronunciations, fluency, accuracy. We would like to against that, and we believe that it is the dear educators' jobs to justify us if we are doing the right thing. But we do believe that the speakers are confirming the best or the current way that this is the first speaker job to analyze the definitions. A summary that we have, ladies and gentlemen, studying grammar is learning. If we want to do and understand the exact language, we have to live with it, not only just learning about the grammar. And it doesn't need good grammar to have good explanations. Thank you very much. Okay.
The first speaker of competition spends 2 minutes and 18 seconds.
Okay, thank you for the request speaker from the negative team, and then we will going on to the request speaker from the government team. And then we'll pick the request speaker. And then time for you, 3 minutes.
Me as the reply speaker of the government team want to tell you about what going in this debate to give some question point. In the perspective of the government team, there are some justification point why our team agree that studying grammar more important than practicing conversation skills. The first is because grammar is the center of both our spoken and written communication. And the second is grammar is help us for communication and do some works. And the third is studying grammar makes us understand more about the rules of the foreign English language. And the fourth is when we learn in other countries like England, America for student exchange, we must have good grammar to speak English with local people. And we provided some mechanism. The first mechanism is to explain what the mean, what the function, and what the benefit of we studying grammar. And ladies and gentlemen, the next mechanism is we need to improve our education quality in grammar. And the next is we need to increase the standards for job application. And ladies and gentlemen, for the negative thing, that the argument is practice conversation skills that more than important from studying grammar. And the second is spontaneous word from their thinking. Imagine if spontaneously they speak root words. And ladies and gentlemen, the rebuttals of the negative team is if we don't prioritize grammar, there will be a root language. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Spends 2 minutes and 3 seconds.
Thank you for the request speaker from government team. And then our debate today is have finished, and then we will hear the commentator from the jury. Or the first jury. Please.